going on? Welcome to the Doug Show. I'm Doug Cunnington, and I'm pumped to have Jesse Lakes on again. How are you today?
I'm doing really well, actually. Thank you.
And we chatted last couple episodes about your new book out there. So if people want to check that out, we'll put a link and check out the other episode. Today we're talking video, and when we popped on, I was like, man, your setup is looking good. The video's sharp. The lighting's good. You combed your hair today. Beautiful. You look beautiful. And I know you've been spending more time on video. So what have you been working on? We're going to talk about what you've learned, your assumptions beforehand, what you're doing, and just all the details. Because I do love video. I geek out about a lot of the technical aspects, the long form. I don't really love short form, but it's interesting to make the distinction in like what will work for different formats. So what have you been working on, Jesse?
Yeah. So, back to the book, there's a lot of information in that book, and some of us like to read, some of us don't. So, talking to my team, we came up with this whole idea of 100 video challenge. What's 100 little bits of information that can come from the book or elsewhere that the general Amazon associates community would benefit from hearing? So from that, dropped into ChatGPT, went back and forth a few times, and came out with this massive spreadsheet of, here's 100 knowledge bombs. Here's 100 things that should be shared. And that has led to this journey of trying to really step up my game in the video world. I've got a lot to go. I'm looking at my screen inside the camera right now. I'm catching myself and I need to look at the camera. But it's been, a really interesting ride to learn more and see what is and isn't working. And it's becoming more and more apparent. It's also really good to walk more in our client's shoes. I did a lot of video stuff way back in the day, got a minor in media art. So having a video camera was always important, but really haven't done much in the last, 10, 15 years. So it's good to, try to appreciate more and more what our clients have to go through.
Interesting. Yeah, it does put you directly in their shoes where you're like, how is this going to work to like actually get people to like and trust you and all that? What was your minor in? What'd you say that was?
Media arts. Cool. Yeah. So University of Montana, I got a business degree, but media arts was all the cool kids running around with cool video cameras. I filmed a lot of skiing and snowboarding and extreme sports stuff and done a few commercials on the side. And that was the passion degree that I wish I would have continued with, but so be it. I'm here now today and it's all working out.
Interesting. Very cool. Yeah. I have to watch myself to go on a tangent in this area because this is where I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Now we could just talk about 30 minutes on that. But I am thinking about some of the stuff that I was into, and I was into photography and like kind of disconnected, but like I'm using a DSLR and like I used Canons back then. I'm using them now. It's like the same lens format. I think I have a lens over there that's like 35 years old, like roughly the time frame as I was getting started with it and everything. And then guitar stuff too. So I've like gravitated back. So it's interesting. Do you feel that where you're like, I kind of, you have a like a draw to like film and the storytelling portion and just like the video part. Do you feel any of that, like your interest from when you were a young man?
Absolutely. I dream of having my own YouTube channel, right? Where I can actually, take a hobby and share it and et cetera. And I've got, hundreds of hours of raw footage on my phone. I haven't given myself permission to go and actually do something with that. And this is feeding that thirst to some degree of, getting to spend some more time on camera and getting to record it. But, ultimately I think it, like you said, it comes back to that storytelling piece, and informational, educational pieces are, I think, very important for kind of this greater purpose I'm on. But for my soul, for my passion, there needs to be a bit more storytelling and video storytelling to kind of really truly scratch that itch. And I'm not quite there, but I think about it pretty regularly.
And then one more question along these lines. Yeah. So are you still doing ultra races and such?
I haven't done a race in a few years, but
okay.
It's time to get back in. I've been training a lot and bumping up the miles, but not officially signed up for anything right now.
So time consuming. I mean, I I stopped running years ago and never ran longer than a half marathon. But I love video content, as we're talking
Mhm.
about. I watch a ton of YouTube, and I actually love watching ultra runners, even though I'm not in that area. I have friends that actually run, and they are, in this area, there's quite a few
Front
ultra
Range,
runners,
Colorado,
but
absolutely. Yeah, that's a awesome place to be.
world-class runners around here. But anyway, I love those vlogs. They're just interesting. It's a journey, sometimes whatever, people training and stuff like that. So I could see that when you have a ton of free time, you can work on that. So, okay, back on track. 100
Yeah.
video challenge. So you got all these ideas,
Mhm.
and you have a team, and you guys are
Mhm.
executing on it. What was the plan as far as like the time frame and any other details around like what did you do after you have all the video ideas?
Yeah. So again, having been able to work with a lot of creators, learn some kind of basic pieces. But the goal was, to get 100 videos out by the end of the year. We started in, I think, May, and very quickly realized that the process wasn't going to work. Having some degree of process with an editor made a huge difference and radically helped with throughput. Batching videos was another one that made a huge difference as well. Instead of trying to do one a day, let's film for an hour and see if we can get, 3, 4, 5, little bits. Not having to mess with the equipment. We had a bit of a snafu earlier, right? When the mic stops working and the audio goes to crap, that doesn't work. So what little bits and pieces do you need? Having lighting, right? I'm in Seattle where it's pretty gray, and that's a bit of a bummer to get good vibrant colors. So figuring out kind of the gear piece. So all that kind of little bits. There was a lot of education and learning, and then we kind of started to pick it up. And then initially, I was just going to film myself, and then ultimately, Lee, the guy that runs our podcast, he would sit on the other side of Riverside and direct me and coach me, and having a hook to start off with. All these little things really make a difference. I've got a long ways to go, but starting to pay more and more attention. Again, I'm looking at the screen, not the camera, but that I know these things. I need to pay more attention to it. So it's been a lesson just kind of in creating the videos and getting the videos out, or even just, getting the videos out. I'll talk on that for a minute, right? Initially, the editor would just drop them in a Google Drive, and then we'd go and do it, and then discover this amazing tool, Metricool. So Metricool, you upload it and you can, kind of post to multiple different places as well and get the stats back. So that's been a big unlock as well for kind of getting these videos across. But then also learning kind of some of the hard facts around platforms. LinkedIn is different than YouTube. Surprise, surprise. Twitter is different than all three of them. So what fits where and how has been a huge lesson that, now that we're about halfway through. And I don't like this lesson because it means that we have to tweak what we're doing after we kind of already figured out a bit of a process. But I think it's going to be important to actually ensure what's being created is as valuable as possible to as many people as possible.
So you are learning along the way because you're getting
Oh
more
yeah.
experience. What's the feedback loop look like? How often are you evaluating? And little example, right? So you're like, hey, if we batch, that actually helps the throughput. But then you lose that feedback loop. Basically, it means if you do whatever 5 videos that day and you have a little mistake that you did in the process, well, you fucked up 5 times then instead of just the one time if you were doing it like in a series and not parallel in a batch. So what's the feedback loop look like? Have you adjusted it based on something like that?
Yeah. So we're the feedback loop is there, but it's not tight, right? To your point, we'll film some videos and then, the feedback was, okay, in the back, the blinds need to be open because we need a little bit more backlight before I had the blinds down to use, so it's, there were, 4, 5, 10 videos that weren't ideal, but also because we're doing essentially shorts, right? It doesn't take more than, 30, 45 seconds, maybe a minute max to share one basic concept around or one concept around Amazon. So I think because they're shorts, some of these mistakes aren't as in your face. It's kind of meant to be, authentic and raw. So I'm getting away with a lot more than if we were filming, good, legit, long form content where, that buzz in the mic really makes a difference, or the lighting really makes a difference. So definitely getting, some benefit of the doubt from the audience.
You mentioned the platform differences. Can you highlight some of those for specific platforms?
Yeah. So again, I spend most of my during the pandemic, I cut myself off from most all social media, but I've definitely kind of spent more time on LinkedIn. Seems to be more of what I enjoy, more educational lessons for leadership, et cetera, entrepreneurial stuff. So because I spend more time there, I also, it's kind of where I post as well. Videos on LinkedIn don't seem to be kind of that perfect match yet from kind of playing around. Engagement on these videos is it gets better all the time. There's definitely something to be said about getting consistent and posting every day. Like I think that's great advice. But I'll notice that while I post a video every day, the days that I also post a photo or some sort of tidbit or lesson, those will get sometimes even 10x more engagement than the videos. And so I think, back to what's for me working on LinkedIn is really just great photo, often goofy because those that know me know it's hard to be serious. And then, some sort of wisdom and a little bit of a hook, and the text does significantly better than some of the best videos, some of I think the best knowledge that I could pass along. I think that's accentuated even more. Again, we're using this great tool, Metricool. When it gets to Twitter, video on Twitter also doesn't seem to be working as well either. So again, while video is the push, it seems some of these platforms do prefer text and photo over video.
Do you think it's because the LinkedIn algorithm is favoring that because that's what people are wanting to consume? Or do you have any other theories? I don't know.
Yeah, I think with the content that I'm creating, it's not pure entertainment. There's an education aspect as well, which requires you to kind of zone in. And to zone in, audio often helps. But unfortunately, most of us, not fortunately or unfortunately, a lot of us are on our phone flipping through, maybe in a subway, maybe in a crowded space where audio is off. And yes, they're subtitled, but it's more kind of seen again there to educate, or they need quicker snippets where that video of being able to focus and have audio on just doesn't work. So I think that over indexing of mobile doesn't work well with the videos that I'm shooting.
Gotcha. You didn't say it, but I will. People are in the bathroom. They're in a stall and they don't have the sound on, That's what we're all doing.
The truth comes out.
Yeah. Remember back in the day, you could go to the bathroom for like 5 minutes. Now, like 30 minutes goes by, your legs fall asleep.
Getting old socks.
Yeah. I'll send you the video so you could put this clip over on LinkedIn. This is the kind of stuff that really people want
Exactly.
toilet talk.
Well, it's also really interesting, kind of this toilet talk as well, but like the whole idea of clipping, right? Making it just as tight as possible, getting that one soundbite versus, taking the time for a full podcast, a full, Joe Rogan podcast. That seems to be a pretty extreme where all of us are just, flipping on TikTok, flipping on Instagram, or LinkedIn. It's all very quick, in your face, little bit.
You mentioned short. So are you focusing on short form? Can you talk about that decision, or are there some longer videos too?
Yeah. So part of my journey comes from Lee's journey. So Lee, again, is a guy on our team that really focused on the Road to Revenue podcast. Doug, you were a very early guest of ours. I think we have done 25 guests in kind of the first season. But those were, longer form interviews, anywhere from 30 to, almost even 90-minute conversations. And those, again, podcasting, we had a lot to learn. There's definitely some things that we did wrong there, and they got some engagement, but we're finding that, taking these really smart people, especially in their respective areas, and just point out the sound bites that are helpful has been really interesting. So while we initially over-indexed on longer form, we're finding that, pushing on shorts, it's kind of that quick hit, right? Getting a little bit, posting it. We're posting, 3 to 4 shorts a day across social media channels. We've got the editor, this woman is amazing. So it's kind of helping get some juice going and definitely helping our YouTube channel get some views. But I wouldn't say that it's been great for kind of that long form or long-term goal of building the awareness at the top of the funnel and driving clients, to Genius Link signups. It's not hurting, but it's not the win that I think we initially hoped for.
With the shorts or the long video formats to short
Both.
form? Both. Okay.
Yeah, we haven't cracked it yet. So we're still, again, very much learning what does our audience want. And some people, it's exactly what they want. I was at Vid Summit in Dallas 2 weeks ago, and sat down, and this guy came in and saw my shirt and got my little Genius links. Oh, I've heard of you. Blah blah. You did an interview with the founder of TubeBuddy. So again, that episode, probably got more engagement, but nothing compared to some of these other things. But I don't think he liked it. Maybe he watched only half of it. But because of that, we had a really great conversation, and it led to some interesting things. So I think as I'm telling the story, one of the things that I've learned just recently, but I should be very clear about, is that your vanity metrics, your views, your likes, your DMs, those are nice, but they're ultimately vanity metrics, right? We really have a relatively limited audience, and those people seeing it, even though they may not have commented or done whatever, that's what matters. So I am seeing more of that. My friends, and when I go to these conferences, people are mentioning that they've seen me on LinkedIn more and more often, and I think that has some value as well.
Interesting. Yeah, so many areas I want to go into there. You mentioned the funnel. So I mean, at the end of the day, right, you're trying to build brand awareness, especially with shorts, because like it would be unusual if someone saw the short, they're like, oh wow, I now want to buy the product at the end and use Genius Link as a service. So it's like there's a lot of connections that it's a funnel, right? So it is interesting, but that is the ultimate goal, right? Brand awareness, and then you work them down the funnel, which you have optimized in another way, right? So any other details on that are important to talk about, or like how you're orienting the specific content?
Yeah, and that's the grander scheme, right? Here's our playbook, education, get that excited, and then if someone can, get the book, read the book, buy the book, further education. And if they've seen some videos and or read some chunk of the book, they're kind of the perfect client for us at that point. So not everyone's going to go through that funnel, but what's lower risk, easier, and kind of work their way down, because ultimately would love to have them as a client and, help them make millions of dollars. But if they don't know it's a problem, or they don't trust the brand, or they don't know me to some degree, that's a much harder sell.
Right. And the other thing, you mentioned the long form podcast, and it's a whole other animal. I enjoy the long conversations, and the interesting piece, similar to the funnel idea, is like the relationships you could build through a longer conversation, especially like the 45 minutes plus.
Absolutely.
Very interesting versus creators passing each other and, hey, what's going on? And you can't really build that big of a relationship, but if you talk a few times, you're able to do that. So even if, I think you know that through all your relationship building through the many years, and then do you have any comments on that?
Built a relationship, right?
100%. Yeah.
I mean, most of our conversations have been recorded on, there's definitely been a lot of email back and forth, and again, connecting in person and drinking beers together definitely was good. But most of our conversations have been exactly, podcast style. So I think you're 100% right that there's some great opportunities to learn and connect.
Perfect example. Okay. So as we're wrapping up here, what's coming up next? So you mentioned the 100 video challenge. So you're a good ways through it. You're optimizing, you're learning, you're figuring things out. What is next? What's coming up?
Yeah. So there's a couple more videos that I really want to get done, but then it sounds like really need to be moving more from that plain vanilla education to my thoughts and how I feel and where I'm seeing things. From what we read and what we're seeing, as a executive, as a thought leader in this space, that's actually in theory going to be better content than, again, just telling people how to keep from getting kicked out of the program, or the difference between Amazon associates and Amazon influencers. So I'm excited to try. I'm a little nervous. Again, I do have opinions. I try to listen more than I talk in general, but this will be good to see what happens. If this is helpful.
Yeah. I'm super curious, and we haven't talked, like we basically hopped on talk for like 2 minutes and hit record. So I was thinking that very thing. So the education piece is cool. Like people are learning a little thing, but the stories that you could tell, even, I mean, the ones that are going to do best are the ones where it's like, this didn't work out. Here's why. Like those are the best stories. No one wants to hear, when you won the race or whatever. They want to hear like, I came in third and I had a really rough time and it was a total, it was a mess and I made all these mistakes. Way more interesting. So not that you made a ton of mistakes through your career.
I've made mistakes left and right. I'm good at making mistakes.
And yeah, so if people want to follow along, see what you guys are working on, where should they find you? And we'll link up so you don't have to spell URLs or anything like that. But what platforms should people check out?
Yeah, so I post first on LinkedIn. That's again kind of where I tend to gravitate. Thankfully, because I've got a great team, a lot of that content then gets dispersed out to most all the channels. But yeah, if direct integration or interaction with me is definitely easiest through LinkedIn.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Jesse. And it's good to catch up, buddy. We can't let so much time go by next time.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for your time, Doug. Great to connect.